नृसिंह चतुर्दशी की जय। नृसिंह भगवान की जय। भक्त प्रहलाद महाराज की जय। Gaur Praman, Hari Hari Bol. So pranam to all of you. And this is a little surprise that it was even a surprise for me. It was not in my plans to do a live streaming today on the Nrsimha Caturdasi, but some inspiration came to share with you a few words. I'm doing it mostly in English today since I've given my radical personalisms class today in Spanish, and somehow we touch upon some section of the Prahlad Charit. But inspiration came to share a few words about Nrsimha Caturdasi, so we are streaming now at this particular time that we know is the specific moment, at least here. Of course, in different countries, it may be different timings, but where Sri Nrsimha Bhagavan appeared from the pillar to protect Prahlad, to satisfy different wishes, different situations. So some inspiration came to share a few words on the occasion of Nrsimha Caturdasi, and also on a more personal level. It won't be a full lecture today, just a few thoughts, so it may take a few minutes with your permission. I would like to share a few words, of course, on Nrsimha Caturdasi, and also on a personal level. Today, it's an anniversary for me, so to say, of the first when I accepted originally the order of sannyas on Nrsimha Caturdasi in 2009. So it will be like 14 years ago. So some thoughts came these days in connection to the connection between Nrsimha Caturdasi and Prahlad Maharaj's example, and what this entails and how all this connects with what sannyas is about, at least for me in this particular stage of my life, because of course for every one of us all these things have different meanings at different chapters. You may be married, and to be married means something on your honeymoon. To be married means something different when you have a child, and to be married means something different when you're about to get divorced, and to be married means something different, whatever, when you reconcile, and so on. So the same applies to sannyas. No, I accepted sannyas when I was 28 years old. You can imagine a pretty much considerable naivete was there, but of course lots of idealism or sometimes over expectation. But in a sincere way, I've tried to embrace this way of life with a particular understanding and conception. And throughout the years, almost like 14 years now, different things had happened. Still, here I am as a sannyasi, but with different ways of conceiving and approaching the order. So a few words on the connection with sannyas ashram for me, and Nrsimha Caturdasi as well. So Srila Prabhupada did say, I've heard many times, that he liked to give sannyas to his disciples on the day of Nrsimha Caturdasi. And that's why I received that originally from my first guru on Nrsimha Caturdasi. It was planned to be given on another day, but we realized it was Nrsimha Caturdasi, and the idea came, okay, Prabhupada likes to give sannyas on this day. We will also, and the question will be why? Why on Nrsimha Caturdasi may be good or auspicious, so to say, to give sannyas to someone? And we could say, well, because Nrsimha Dev, we could say, it's the deity of Abhayatva. In Sanskrit, Abhayatva means fearlessness. He who confers freedom from fear, and he who protects. And the point is that what's the connection with sannyas? I mean, everyone needs that. Of course, everyone needs that. But sannyas, if you go to Shastra, many sections wherever it is spoken about which is the main quality of a sannyasi, or the main virtue that a sannyasi should have or should look for, should develop, although he or she has already, is abhayatva, fearlessness. Abhay, we know Prabhupada had the name Abhay Charan. He was fearless. Abhayatva means fearlessness. So the main quality of a sannyasi in Shastra means he or she has to be fearless. So what does it mean, fearless? Doesn't only mean, of course, sometimes it's depicted here the sannyasi has to travel by himself and be independent in that sense, not be attached to being maintained here and there, and he should wander alone the world and share the message and be dependent upon God and trusting that he will protect all these angas of Sharanagati, Rakshishyat, Vishwasogoptritve Baranam. But also, Abhayatva means to not be fearless. Sorry, to be fearless means to develop the capacity to embrace the unknown, as we have been talking about in our series on radical personalism. A sannyasi has to be, at least to my experience, an ideal. Which type of sannyasi will I like to be is someone who is fearless in the sense of is courageous, and courageous is quite connected with vulnerable, as we already explained in our class on vulnerability. So sannyasi is someone who won't have a problem to be vulnerable, that takes courage, and having courage means to be fearless, and being fearless also implies to be willing to change, to be willing to explore the unknown, to be willing to discover things in one's own self that need update and upgrade, to be willing to inhabit liminal space, to be willing to embrace uncertainty, to coexist with those dark nights of the soul and periods in one's life where things are not going as one expected, and that one cannot project too much because nothing is clear and you have to to embrace the present moment. All that requires one to be fearless. So just a few words on elaborating a little bit more, what does it mean to be fearless? Again, at least for me in this present stage. And this is also nicely connected for me with not only Nrsimhadev being the deity of Abhayatva, but Prahlad Maharaj himself being a perfect example of that, as you know. He had no fear, although he was surrounded by what we may call one threat after another. He was seeing Bhagavan everywhere, and he was happy and equipoised, although his father, the biggest demon of the universe, wanted to kill him over and over again. But he was constantly feeling the protection, and not only feeling like a mental belief, but an actual reality. So all this is that was part of my reflection today for me. I want to attain that abhayatva. It's not that I have it fully, it's just an ideal I would like to attain, and I will never, I don't think you can never say that I have already attained it fully. So this abhayatva, very connected to the sannyas ashram, very connected to Nrsimhadev as the deity of it, very connected to the spirit of Prahlad Maharaj, exhibiting it. And that's why, again, probably Srila Prabhupada liked to give sannyas on a day like today. And we, all of us, again, even if you are not a sannyasi, all of us need to embrace this in one way or another, in one level or another. We need to go through to all that what Prahlad Maharaj represents. Now, this was made very clear by Sanatana Goswami in his Brihad Bhagavatamrita, when he gave all these examples in the journey of Gopakumar, as well as Nara's journey. And generally, Prahlad Maharaj is there to begin with, in the doorway, more connected to Santa Rasa. Then you have the ones in Hanuman in Dasya, and those in Sakya, Pandavas, Udavs, whatever, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. But the point here is, it comes to my mind, Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, he will say, okay, the ultimate, in the pyramid, if you will, the ultimate need of life is more of spiritual contemplation. But to begin with, you may need to have in place some other needs. You may need to know what you will eat today, where you will sleep, and certain other basic survival necessities have been met. And eventually all this will create a foundation for you to properly engage in transcendence, so to say. So similarly, in that sense, we could say we have to go through the Santa Rasa of Prahlad Maharaj. Not that Prahlad Maharaj is Santa Rasa is our goal, and be careful also with downplaying that too much. No, we are Gaudias and we belong to the Raga Marg. We are only about Manjari Bab in Golok and so on. So Prahlad he's a Santa Bhakta. Be careful with that. No, the Santa Rasa of Prahlad has to do with fearlessness. Again, no fear at all in front of adversity. Seeing Bhagavan everywhere, not seeing problems, not complaining, not victimizing himself, allowing not trying to solve problems, but allowing the problems to solve us. Having deep faith and seeing God's hand everywhere, being totally peaceful because of that. That was his deep sight, his deep contemplation. So we want to do that. We need to embrace all those qualities as part of our Gaudiya project in connection to Vrindavan. So something in connection again with Bhakta Prahlad and the Sannyas ashram, but I will mostly want to speak about Nrsimhadev and Prahlad today, not about my sannyas. I just began with that, sharing a few words. A verse that came to mind, actually that was the first thing that came to my mind that eventually made me, okay, let's share this with you. I was reading yesterday. I read the whole seventh canto without the purports because I didn't have enough time to finish all that in one day. But the verses, I went through them yesterday as trying to prepare my heart for today. And then I found this famous verse, which is the second verse of the ninth chapter of the seventh canto, where Narasimha Dev appears and Lakshmi Devi is there. Remember, Aranyakasipu was there, Prahlad was there, Devas were there, Lakshmi Devi is there, and Lakshmi Devi is perceiving a different, so to say, a version of her Lord that she has never seen. So this verse is Sakshat Shri Prashita Divar Drishtam Tam Mahad Adbhutam Adrishta Shruta Purvatvat Sa Nopeyaya Shankita. So basically, it says that Lakshmi Ji, the goddess of fortune, she was requested to go before the Lord by all the demigods present, who because of fear could not do so. But even she had never seen such a wonderful and extraordinary form of the Lord, and thus she could not approach him. So again, this is quite connected to this idea of abhayatva, because abhayatva means to be fearless, and fearless has to do with venturing into the unknown. And venturing into the unknown has to do with venturing into into a relationship with God, which in one way, in one sense, he will remain a mystery forever, because there will be always a new aspect of him revealing in their relationship, and we should be willing to discover that new face of Bhagavan in our relationship with him. And this verse is showing that Lakshmi, she is the eternal consort of Bhagavan, but at one point she finds, I never experienced this. This is a new thing. There's an ever-evolving pattern in the life of the Absolute, an ongoing discovery, an evolution, so to say, in evolutionary terms. God is always growing and evolving and unfolding. So we should be open to that. We should have an openness to rediscover Bhagavan and in our different stages of relationship with him. That has to do with abhayatva as well. Like what we mentioned in one lecture on radical personalism, that sometimes we may feel God has disappeared from me. I'm not experiencing Krishna anymore as I used to do. But probably it's not that he disappeared. Actually, he got closer and closer. But since that level of proximity is unknown for us, we never experienced that before, and we are accustomed to experience him in a certain way, we think, he disappeared. He's getting farther and farther. Well, actually, he's getting closer and closer, but we are too attached to experience him in a certain way. What we see here, Lakshmi is Adbhuta. It's a very wonderful form. And they say Adrishta Ashruta, never seen before, never heard of before. So in one way, again, we should remain open to allow Krishna to introduce himself to us in newer and newer forms. That's the eternal ongoing dynamics of a loving relationship. The more love we have, that will impact Bhagavan in a certain way, and he will appear in a new way in front of us, inside of us, and so on and so forth. And that requires abhayatva, fearlessness, to venture into the unknown, into the realm of potential and possibilities of our relationship with God, not being too attached that my relationship with Bhagavan has to be always like this, or whatever. And also one interesting idea that I would like almost to conclude these words with is the idea that, of course, what we are celebrating at this precise moment, that the birth, so to say, of Nrsimhadev coming from a pillar. And why Nrsimhadev is coming from a pillar, as we know, because Prahlad Maharaj saw him there. We remember that in the 8th chapter of the 7th canto, verse 12, Nrsimhadev Hiranyakashipu is threatening his son Prahlad and saying, you always are speaking about the Supreme Being, which is different from me. Remember, Hiranyakashipu considered himself was that Supreme Being. So you are talking about a second Supreme Being, who is above everything and everyone, who is the controller of everyone, including me, who is all-pervading. So if he's all-pervading, where is he? Where is that Supreme Being that I cannot see? Now, if he's everywhere, then why he's not present before me? In this pillar, is he in this pillar? Hiranyakasipu asked him. Of course, what does Prahlad Maharaj reply? Basically, Prahlad Maharaj will say, "Where is your supreme? No, I do not see him anywhere." Hiranyakashipu will say, and Prahlad will say, "Where is he not? I'm seeing him everywhere. Where is he not? In every atom. Every atom is oozing with the presence of the Supreme. Every atom is an embassy of Bhagavan." And Prahlad, of course, replies, "Ito Nishrimho, Parato Nishrimho, Yato Yato, Yamitato Nishrimho, Bahir Nishrimho, Hridaye Nishrimho, Nishrimho Nadim Sharanam Prabhadiya." He's outside, he's inside, he's in front, he's in the back, he's everywhere. I'm seeing him everywhere. That was Prahlad's natural reaction. So Prahlad's vision, he's in the pillar, made Bhagavan appear from there. He saw him in the pillar, he saw him in every atom. He was right. It was not that Prahlad was delusional. So that the point is that this verse or this section of the Bhagavatam is showing us a top something that we have been talking about also these last classes on radical personalism, that this material world can act as a portal to infinity. God can reveal himself through matter, literally. This example, this lila shows that this can happen even literally. God can appear from a pillar, from an atom. We talked today about that in our Spanish class on radical personalism. Always seeing God everywhere. That was Prahlad's vision. So that's a very interesting idea. Try to imagine that from every atom, of course, every atom is small in size, and Nrsimhadev, which is a gigantic form, appear from a pillar, even if you want to take the whole pillar, but the whole pillar was not as big as Nrsimhadev. But somehow God managed to manifest himself from a place which was smaller in size than him. You follow? He can do that, no problem. From one atom, Nrsimhadev can appear. So we should bear that in mind also. And interestingly, just to make full circle and conclude here, since I started sharing a few words about sannyas, sannyasi also, this is mentioned in the Bhagavatam, no? Because also after the Nrsimha Lila, there's this discussion on the different ashrams and varnas and the duties for each one. So it is said there that this sannyasi should always try to see the Supreme pervading everything and see everything, including this universe, resting on the Supreme. So this is very much the vision of Prahlad Maharaj, who was not a sannyasi. But again, you don't need to be a sannyasi to develop that vision. And that's the duty for every one of us as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, and trying to see the Supreme present everywhere, pervading everything, and all this universe resting on him. That was Prahlad's view, and that view made Nrsimhadev Bhagavan appear today. And that's what we are celebrating today. That's why we are getting together at this precise moment, to celebrate, in other words, the potential for God to manifest in our lives in every single moment, in any single place here on earth, the so-called ordinary world. Not at all, as you can see. But again, we should be fearless, as an ideal sannyasi should be, or as an ideal devotee should be. We should be fearless into venturing ourselves into this realm of experience and possibility, and allowing God to be God, and allowing the unlimited to be unlimited, to reveal himself whenever he wants, however he wants. And we be open to be constantly astonished, in wonder and awe, and as to how Bhagavan, our beloved, is constantly unfolding and appearing and expressing himself in our lives over and over again in unending ways, increasing the interaction of loving relationship. So that's our hope, and that's our celebration, and that's why I felt inspired to share a few words with all of you today. So may you have very blessed meditation, prayer, contemplation, and seva today in Narasingha Caturdasi. Sri Bhakta Prahlad Maharaj ki jai, Sri Bhagavan ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrind ki jai, Gaur